So good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it. A couple things before we get started. Obviously, Saturday, 3 p.m. on Fox, or 3:05 actually, on Fox. We're trying to work with them a little bit, the Fox people. If anyone wants to go over to the show on Saturday, or hopefully Friday afternoon, we may have availability with their on-air talent. So we're trying to work that through with their PR department, and if we do, we'll let you know about that. If anybody has specific requests for any of those announcers, maybe drop me a note so we know, to make sure we let everybody know on that. And then next week, Purdue homecoming, 2:30 p.m. start on ABC. We announced today that that game is a sellout as well as this week. So hopefully everyone knows, again, this is A&F week, the A&F game, the 10th annual A&F game. So we appreciate your coverage on that. Thanks to the Iowa Farm Bureau folks and everyone for their support of the A&F initiative. And here as the 9th former player to be added to the Wall of Honor for the A&F is Marshall Yonda. Marshall is a fifth-generation dairy farm. His family a little bit north of Anamosa, obviously had a great career here, played 13 years in the NFL, all-pro honors, and a lot more probably coming his way. But introduce you to Marshall Yonda.
Almost like media day in Baltimore. Here we go, right?
What does this mean to you?
Oh, it's awesome. You know, just my upbringing and how I was raised, and like I said, you know, grew up on a dairy farm, and you know, my parents worked extremely hard. You know, growing up on the farm, and you know, to be able to be a part of this group and be a part of this week is special. Like I said, just growing up on the farm, you learn, you know, things by you know, hard work and discipline and sacrifice, and you know, that really transitioned to football for me for sure. So, you know, my parents kind of showed me the way, you know, of working hard every day. And I, like I said, when we were kids, me and my sister, you know, you thought everybody grew up that way. And you didn't realize that way of life is not for a lot of people. And like I said, I appreciate the sacrifice of my parents.
A lot of people talk about being farm strong. It certainly teaches you physical strength as well. How much of that was, you know, just a good thing for you in your football career to be able to come from a background like that, you know, farm strength? They say it's real.
Yeah, for sure. Just because, you know, when I was a kid, you know, we were, you know, pitching calf condos and mowing hay and doing like physical labor, you know, which, you know, a lot of kids, you know, when you're younger, you probably just aren't exposed to that much. So, I mean, and always, as me as a football player, I was pretty strong in the weight room, but people always talked about I had that farm, you know, that farm strength, that natural strength, that core strength. So that definitely, you know, came from the farm and just being physically active every day, you know. And I can remember my dad, you know, milking the cows, and just like, my dad had some guns back in the day, you know, from him being a farmer. So it's physically demanding for sure.
Do you think the way your career evolved, your motivation for youngsters who maybe aren't highly recruited, or, you know, to keep up the fight and you can make it?
Yes, 100%. Just because my path was, you know, just not always, you know, destined to be this, you know, all-pro, you know, veteran NFL player. You know, I was a junior college transfer, so I had, you know, a really long ways to go. So it just shows you that you can unlock a lot of potential inside you that you don't know you have at that, you know, current time in your life. So as long as you know, you have goals and you have, you know, work ethic, and you take it one day at a time, you just never know. I mean, obviously, you know, there's tons of guys where, you know, say you make it to high school and that's it, or college and you had a good run, and that's good too. But having that work ethic and that desire, you know, you unlock, you know, a lot of potential that, like I said, you just don't know you have. I didn't know when I was at junior college. I was just hoping to make it to Iowa and be a starter, and that was a heck of a battle to climb, right? And then to be able to transition to the NFL and have that much success, when you're in that battle, that day-to-day battle, you don't know you have that much in you. So it's a good reminder to kids to dream big, and you got to work extremely hard for what you want.
how much of that work on the farm helped you as you transitioned from being a pro football player and on a physical basis, because you probably lost, what, 60, 70 pounds?
Yeah, about 65. Yeah, just, I mean, like I said, you just, football, it definitely correlates, so much just because you have to do the same thing over and over, and it doesn't get any easier. And football is so like that, whether you're playing games on the weekends or whether you're lifting weights in the off season, whether you're doing speed work or conditioning, it's just physically demanding. So you have to be mentally tough. And I feel like, when you're exposed to that at a younger age where you got to get after it, and this is maybe something you necessarily don't want to do, but you have to do, that makes you, mentally tough. And I feel like, that just kind of, paved the way for me to really, take football and really run with it.
You miss football?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I do. But I also miss, or I understand, what comes with it. And I just, at that point in time, I had 2 years. I got to play 2 years healthy, and I had been unhealthy at the end of my career. So I just knew that I was compound interest. I was due to get hurt if I played one more year. I'd never made it more than 3 years without having a major injury in the NFL. So I made it 18 and 19 injury free, and had a lot of fun my last year. And I was like, I want to end without any rehab, because rehab was life draining for me at the end with football. So, but I definitely miss Sundays. I miss the competitiveness in the air, like on Sunday mornings. Like you can't get that anywhere else.
What are some of the things you learned from Coach Ferentz and his staff that enabled you to go on and have such a successful career?
Yeah, I mean, there's two words that just come to my mind: preparation and focus. I would say those are just two things that you can carry that to, any part of the game. That everything around here is about preparation. The battle is won before it is fought. So every Iowa football team that takes the field is prepared, and that starts with Coach Ferentz. Just instilling in us every day. Giving us examples, talking to us. Just building you up. To prepare, and then obviously focus. Focused on your job, focused on your assignments, focused on just your eating, focused on everything. So I would just say, he really paved the way, and the whole staff paved the way, just to set you up, to put you on those railroad tracks as far as if I prepare and if I focus, I maximize my potential, the sky's really the limit. And I definitely learned that here, right? Like JUCO, I was a really raw player. I had the physical attributes, but I was a very raw player. I didn't, technique and fundamentals and all that was really on the low end, and being prepared. So, coming from Iowa to the, from the rest of my journey, I just was really on an uphill every year. Every year I got a little bit better, a little bit better. I was still getting better in year 5 at the NFL. Year 6, I was still getting better, just because, that's just the preparation that you have.
We were talking to Tyler Linderbaum today, and he was saying that what a great example it was to see you come in after more than a decade in the NFL and the continued work ethic that you had.
Yeah.
What does it mean to you to still have been able to have that kind of impact well after your time here? And particularly when watching a guy like that, do you see him as somebody who can maybe follow in your footsteps and have a career like you did?
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, I loved being back here in the off season. I loved spending time here, because you find out, football and in life, this is a big family. And when you go to battle together, you forge those bonds and those friendships. And I definitely forged those here. And to be able to come back, it's such a win-win for me to be back, because it was an edge for me. As an NFL player, the older you get, the less weights guys want to lift, the less back squats they want to do, and doing all that stuff back every year back here, even into my 30s, is what made me still play at a high level. So that was an edge for me, but obviously it was great. Yeah, it was great for the kids, the younger players, to see me still having this environment be a big impact for me, even continue to play. So they rehab me, rehab my shoulder surgeries, my knee surgeries. I mean, like I said, it's a family here, and that's how the whole building is run. So any chance I got to be around here, I loved it. Like I said, it was a big edge.
What does it mean to you as an ex-Hawkeye to see what's happening this Saturday, a 3 versus 4 matchup, same coach you had?
Yeah.
How does it?
It's awesome. You're just happy for everybody in this building, right? They go to war every weekend, and they put their heart and souls into it, and they sacrifice a lot of time from their families, and everybody has this common goal, right? and to see them, you know, on their way to achieving their goals and playing at a high level, I mean, it's awesome. That's exactly what, you know, you're setting your goals, and you want to be successful and win, and you want to, you know, you're happy for the players, the coaches, the sacrifice they made, and you're happy to see it paying off for them. And you know, huge college environment, you know, great college atmosphere. I mean, you know, running out of Kinnick is it's amazing. And then obviously you amp up the rankings, and a really good team coming in, and I mean, we always play Penn State really hard. So I mean, it's exciting.
What are you doing these days? I mean, do you have or are operating a farm? And
yeah, so right now I'm actually helping my dad on the farm right now. We were about, I don't know, probably 8 straight days of harvesting. So like last fall, I've helped my dad harvest the crops first time, which was great, spending time with my dad and being on the farm, and just, you know, getting back some of that time where, you know, come July in training camp, you know, you're busy from July to January, so just didn't get a lot of time on the farm. So, you know, helping my dad on the farm, and then our kids, we got 3 kids, and, you know, taking them to their sports and activities. And then also, you know, we have a house and some land, and I really enjoy, you know, being outdoors, and got a Bobcat skid loader and enjoy being out there and working in the Bobcat. So I enjoy, you know, time outdoors, time with family and you know, close friends. And then, you know, still just figuring things out one day at a time. You know, I'm still in, you know, a pretty good transition of, like, you just did everything, you know, for so long, just in, you know, every day's preparation, and even the off season, I thought about it all the time. Even, you know, you were in the off season, you were rehabbing. I was thinking about playing, you know, J.J. Watt or Aaron Donald, or you got a Dominican Sue, you know, on the schedule. So it was always on my mind. So I'm still, you know, transitioning from not having to think about that stuff all the time. But it's been awesome. I mean, I've had a really good transition so far.
it's difficult for a lot of, especially football players, to mentally transition. Whenever the end comes, you fall off the cliff. And have you spoken to, whether it's former teammates or friends, just about what was it like for you? How did you get past this? Because it gnaws at you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and we actually we went met up with some guys down in Florida this off season, and some former players, and we talked about it for sure. You know, certain guys, how they deal with it, and how, you know, just how that's just part of the transition of the game. You can't do it forever, right? But I felt like I was always conscious of my ego and not letting my ego get too big. And I feel like the guys with the really big egos have a tough time, you know, transitioning more than the guys that are prepared for it and ready for it and understand that, like, you know, you're not any bigger than, you know, the team, and sooner or later you can't do this forever. So, like I said, but it helps to talk with other players, and if other guys that you're good, your friends and teammates that have been, you know, if they need some help, it's good to be there for them.
Have you gotten to see much of this year's offensive line?
Yeah, I've been watching. Yeah, they've it's been awesome to watch. I watched the Maryland game, and you know, it's you know, the whole team is just, you know, firing on all cylinders, right? Defense is getting takeaways, and and they're running the ball well, you know, making plays in the passing game. And obviously the offensive line is young, but man, they're playing well, and it's exciting for sure. Very exciting.
What advice would you give to this team, given your big game experience in the past, coming into this one, if you've had the chance to address them?
Yeah, the biggest thing is don't make this game any different than just another game on the schedule, right? Just everything is one day at a time, and we don't look ahead. We don't care who we play. You know, next week you just focus on your opponents one game at a time, and you just don't look too far in the future. Like, everything is in the moment, right? Like, it's all about, like, today, having a good practice today, having a good meeting today. Make sure you're hydrated. Make sure you're eating well, fueling your body, right? Because your body, you know, is what, you know, produces on game day. So but not overthinking it, right? Too many young players, you know, get that in their head, and then they start, and then they maybe have, you know, more jitters than they normally should. But you know, they prepare them here the right way, where they've been drilled that into them, you know. And I still remember it getting drilled into me, where we take them one at a time, and we don't, you know, we prepare, and we don't worry about the opponent. We worry about us.
Are you thinking about coaching?
Yes, I do. Yep, I do. Because like I said, I love football, and I love just every aspect of the game. And but I'm still in that transition of just figuring it out, right? Just one day at a time. And it's also like, you know, time with my dad right now, time with my parents, time with my kids. You know, I'm enjoying that time right now. So, but I do love football, and you know, we'll just have to see how that goes, you know, how that unfolds as time goes on.
You mentioned a couple guys. Is there one guy that stands out that you had to block throughout the years in the NFL that was, who would you maybe say was the toughest?
Yeah, I get that. I would say back in the heyday, it was J.J. Watt. You know, back when he was Defensive Player of the Year, those back-to-back years, he was just wrecking the game. I mean, he had I think 80 quarterback hits in one season, which, you know, everybody else had, you know, the highest defensive player had, you know, 22 quarterback hits, and J.J. Watt had 80 quarterback hits. I mean, going against him back in the day. And then I would say Aaron Donald for an interior lineman, he's at the top of the list the last couple of years, watching him on film, and he's a problem. Yeah.
So, this past summer, Tristan Wirfs was back, and I asked him, I said, why are you coming back here to work out? And he said, because Marshall Yonda did it. And what does that mean to you that a kid like that is being influenced by you? Yeah,
I mean, that's awesome, you know what I mean? Just because, you know, you're trying to do things the right way every single day, and you're trying to set the example that, you know, it is a good path, and that success does come through hard work. And unfortunately, when you're in the NFL, the offseason, a lot of guys kind of take their foot off the gas, and they don't lift as hard, they don't run as hard, and then there's kind of a conflict of interest of, you know, the strength coach may not, you know, necessarily want to push you too hard because he doesn't want to get you hurt, you know, and then all of a sudden, you know, then his job's in trouble, right? So who's actually getting better in the offseason, that can get, the waters can get muddied in the NFL. But when you come back here, they treat you the same, they expect the same out of you, and I love that. You know, I mean, I stretched with the young team, and, you know, out in the indoor, and you start, and you don't get treated any different. You know, that expectation is the Iowa way, is that, you know, you do things 110%, you show up on time, you do your job, and I enjoyed that not being treated any different, right? And that's but being looked up to by the younger players, it's awesome for sure. And I looked up to those guys before me too, right? You know, the guys that paved the way for me that were, you know, successful, you know, pro football players.
So did you have any, did you and JJ exchange any Iowa, Wisconsin?
Not really, no. We kind of exchanged, you know, at one game, you know, they were up big time, and we were in 2-minute mode for 3 quarters, and he said that he was going to get a sack for sure, and we kind of had a little bit of fun going back and forth, and I told him he wasn't getting there that day, and there was some good battles for sure, but no Big Ten ties, yeah, at least no Big Ten talk, yeah.
What was it like with the kind of the brotherhood of Iowa players? You know, I saw some pictures this weekend of guys, but just seeing fellow Hawkeyes after games in the NFL, and do you miss that? Yeah,
because I mean, every year in the NFL, the team and the rosters change so much. You don't have as much turnover in college, right? You get a guy for 5 years, and you can have that in the NFL, but it's just the change is more. So like, you just spend so much more time together in college, and you really build that brotherhood even more. And you're a younger player, and there's not like contracts involved and money involved and worry about, you know, and cap problems and all that stuff. So you really get to bond that brotherhood, right? And everybody works so hard together every single day that, like, you're pulling for one another, right? It's just a great team environment, and you can see that's, you know, that stuff is so natural when you work so hard together and they do something great as a team. They're celebrating, and they're just having the time of their lives because they work so hard. You know, they put so much work in June and in February, and all the weights and all that, you know, paying off for them, because that's, you know, you prepare all year round for those games. Then it's only, you know, 60 minutes, so there's a lot that goes into it.
All right. Anything else?
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Give Coach and Marshall a chance. We want to get a couple photos here before we get started.
Saw the blue truck out there. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah, no doubt.
You look great.
Hey, I feel about 10 years younger.
You look younger.
Yeah,
you
for sure.
Younger.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Carmen says she's going to know you a little bit.
Yeah.
Tebby?
Yep.
Through being parents?
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, it's been good. Been awesome. So
appreciate the listening.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Sharon, good and kids?
Yeah, everybody's good. You know, yeah, it's been great. Yeah.
Did the Bible do something like that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Was Reese hanging around?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. I got to see him. Yeah, I got to see him. He's doing good. Yeah, it's good to catch up with him. So.
He looks like he's in college, doesn't he?
Yeah. Young, the weight and the beard. So, you know, I had the beard for a very long time. It's nice to shave the beard once in a while, and I kind of had that as camouflage, you know, back in the day. You know, being so big. It's just part of the deal.
Way up.
Yeah.
So doing some farming?
Yeah, been helping Dad on the farm. Yeah, so that time and kids' time, and that's been great. Yeah, heck yeah. You guys are rolling.
Yeah, so are your old team too.
No doubt.
Pretty good.
Yeah, they are. Heck yeah. Yeah. So.
Finish what you know how this. Day at a time.
I know.
Yeah, day at a time.
Yeah, for sure.
Love seeing you.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, good seeing you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Coach. Anything, Steve? I really did. I was just going in my office and I looked out and saw Old Blue down there. And that's how I used to set the. How many years you play in the NFL? 13, 14? Yeah. Like, if that truck wasn't out in the lot, then he was either snowmobiling, fishing. He was out of town somewhere. Otherwise, he was down there training. And, what a great benefit that was has been for our program to see have our athletes, current athletes, get to watch a guy like him, the way he worked just so methodically and so routinely throughout his pro career and have the kind of success he had. So just first and foremost for Marshall to be honored, this weekend is really, really special and so deserving. So what a great list of awardees on that wall too. So you more than fit on that wall. Any wall it's worth having. You should be up there. So great to see you, Marshall. Appreciate that. Appreciate everybody being here. Good afternoon. And it was a unusual weekend having Saturday off. We don't get that experience too often, so it's kind of funny when you have a chance to step away for a little bit. It's almost like a week off in some ways, just a good mental break and chance for everybody to rest a little bit. And I got back at it Sunday. So, just a quick look backwards. Happy to get the win as always. Anytime you get a chance to get a victory, that's a good thing. And just thought going into the game, there are a lot of challenges we talked about last week, being a night game, Friday night game, short week. It was a late kickoff, certainly, and then first and foremost, playing a good opponent. So just really proud of the way our guys handled the week. Thought we played with good energy, certainly good focus. And, just after watching the tape, I thought both of our lines showed some growth on Friday night. Happy about that. And then, some spark plays, obviously a lot of takeaways out there. And maybe the biggest play in the game was the one that Sebastian Castro came up with. We got a score and kicked off, and then, he made a great play, just, read the guy cutting back, knifed in there and made a great tackle, knocked the ball out. And so we come out with the ball and then turned that into a score, and that really was a big, big play. But I think the bigger story there is a guy like Sebastian Castro who, really is not a household name. He's done a lot of good things in the program here for a couple of years, been a really good scout team player. And, I think as offensive coaches really thought he had a chance to be a good football player for us. And hoping now that this is a start, he's kind of stacked behind some good players at his position. We have some veterans at the safety spot. But that kind of play hopefully can lead to better things for him in his career. And team-wise, that's what we need. We need big plays, obviously, from guys maybe you haven't heard of, and maybe some more good stories. So just really pleased about that and pleased for Sebastian. He's worked real hard. Captains this week, as we turn our eyes towards Penn State, we've got Tyler Linderbaum offensively. You've got Matt Hankins, Jack Kerner, and Spencer Petras. Be the four guys going up. Medically, we're in pretty good shape, I think, relative to this time of year. So right now it looks like everybody's got a shot to be ready to go here. And obviously, we got a real tough challenge in front of us right now, and there's going to be a lot of tension in this game already, as I'm sure. So, that's what's in front of us right now, and really our message hasn't changed in 5 weeks. This is week 6 now. It's all about us trying to get better on a daily basis, and that's about as simple as it is, and that's what we need to be focused on besides trying to match up against a really good opponent. And, we got a young football team. We're 5 games into it, so we've learned a lot about our guys. But, there's always work to do, and we certainly are in that mode right now. Just a couple words about Penn State. I've been following them since I was basically in elementary school, growing up in that part of the country. And it's funny, the story doesn't change a heck of a lot. A lot of things that were true when I was young are still true right now. They've got outstanding players. They've always had good players there. I can't remember a year where they didn't. They're very well coached, and Coach Franklin's really got them playing well right now. They're playing at a high rate, and last Saturday is real, obviously good evidence of that. Offensively, their quarterback is a veteran player, can make any throw that they ask him to make, and besides that, he's a dangerous runner. They'll run with him a little bit by design. But I think maybe as dangerous as anything is if it's not there for him or something opens up, he'll just pull it down and go. And, he'll throw off the run, or he'll take it and make the yardage necessary for a first down, or even more than that. So, that's where it all starts there. And again, he's a veteran player. He's a leader. He's the guy they look for, or look to, I should say. Big veteran group up front, and they're a good group. They've got 2 outstanding tight ends, really good backs. They always do. And then the receiver core, I think, is probably as good as we've seen. I'm as impressed with number 5 as anybody we've seen this year. And I say that with all due respect. We've played against some really good players so far, but their receiver's a tremendous football player. It's a real good group, but he's outstanding. Defensively aggressive, really, with their approach. They're a high-pressure team, a lot of movement. And then most importantly, we got good players, and they play hard, and they're giving up 12 points a game right now. So that's going to be a challenge. And then special teams-wise, they're doing a great job there in all phases, and not a big surprise either. So, kid captain this week, we got Cale Schmidt, who's from Goose Lake, and for the record, there is no Goose Lake. I've checked that out with Lucas Empen on our team. But, Cale's an outstanding young guy. He's beat cancer twice now, and this fall, 5 years from the last bout. So that's certainly a positive thing, and happy for him. And, we're going to have a great environment Saturday, too, certain of that. It'll be a great environment out there. But one thing we told our players, just like last week, the fans don't play the game. So it's up to us to make sure we get ready and know that we're going to have to be at our best at 3 o'clock, 3:05 on Saturday to have an opportunity in this game. Throw it out for questions.
Kayvon and Terry both got their first interceptions last Friday. Both of them, kind of their path to becoming impact players. What type of examples are they for the rest of the team in terms of them just being unselfish, putting their head down and working and seeing that come to fruition?
We've talked a lot about Terry this year, at least I think I have, and just, to that point, that's where we're hoping Sebastian follows that path. But Terry really made his mark on special teams and has been playing a real high level on special teams, takes a lot of pride in it, and so it's great to see him get his first interception. That's fun. And Kayvon, same thing. He's been a good special teams player to climb the ladder. But last year is really the first year we had enough, faith and trust in him to see him as a starter. And we've always seen him as a starter since the start of last year. Little different path. He was more of a basketball player in high school. Wasn't really recruited very heavily in football. And we just thought he had some potential as a football player. So really happy he's on our team. But both guys are great guys. They work hard, and just really high energy guys. That helps our football team. But good for them to get. That's something obviously every DB wants to do, is get a pick or two, and good for them to have some success in game action.
I know there was only one Bob Sanders, but does it take you back when you've got this guy from Erie Cathedral flying around on special teams, causing mayhem?
Yeah, there's a parallel for sure, and both about the same height too. Terry might have him by maybe a quarter inch, something like that, but a little different build. But yeah, Erie's been pretty good to us. We haven't had a lot of guys out of Erie, but the ones we've had have been pretty good to us for sure. And Jovan Johnson was actually the guy who kind of put us on to Terry. And when Terry got here, he was a skinny, kind of a smallish kid. But boy, he's worked hard. The energy he plays with and the pride he takes in what he does has really been impressive. And I think I said last week, we consider him a starter at corner. I think it's the same as what I talked about a little earlier. We got a couple of good players that are veteran guys. Otherwise, he would be starting for us. So for him to get that action out there and have a chance to get a pick, that was great. But he's been doing a great job on special teams for sure.
Years ago, you were coaching offensive line in a game over here, 1-against-2. Anything about that week that you learned that you're able to use to prepare this team?
Yeah, I think the big takeaway from that game to today would be that I tried to tell our guys yesterday that the energy, just when you walk in the stadium that day, it's rare. When you get in an environment like that, and Marshall's been in that environment in the NFL. There's just certain games you can feel when you walk in the stadium, especially when the crowd gets in there. So, that part's really neat. You got to be prepared for that. But again, the fans aren't going to play the game. They're going to be there to help us. They're not going to play the game. And then the other takeaway, whether it's that game or any every game counts. Every game's really important. But there obviously are certain games where it's a little bit more visibility. And the more you can stay centered on what you're trying to accomplish and what you're trying to, and that was the task last week. I mean, we didn't know what we were walking into, 3-4 weeks back when we had to travel, same thing. So you better keep your eyes on the target, and the target's, all about what you're doing, your performance, and the more you get wrapped up in all that other stuff, boy, I tell you, the harder it is to be successful. So that's really the trick, I think, is try to block all the other stuff up. And like a week like this, everybody needs tickets. People you haven't heard from in 5 years are calling about tickets, all that stuff, So nobody's mad about it, but that's just the way it goes. So, deal with it. And I say, ask Marshall about going to a Super Bowl, right? You hear from everybody, right? I mean, everybody in the world. Like you get 80 free tickets to the Super Bowl. That doesn't happen. But anyway, so that's part of it. Yeah, just trying to, let's play football. I'll come right back. I'm sorry.
Okay, when you look at what Phil has been able to do and accomplish as a secondary coach and now as a defensive coordinator, what is the kind of a distinguishing characteristic of how he's able to build players who are 3-star or 2-star guys and elevate not only them as individuals, but then the unit and be as successful as what they are?
Yeah, so I apologize. I didn't read my notes clean enough. One thing I omitted. Fox is doing the game this week, so I'll put a shameless plug in for Bob Stoops. And I only bring that up, you triggered a thought there. So when Bob was playing for us, I used to look across the field and had a lot of respect for the way Michigan State played defense, and always kind of thought Phil should have been like one of the Stoops brothers, right? In some way, because the way they played, thought he was their version of our Stoops family. And Bob, I had the good pleasure of knowing Bob as a person. I'm looking at Phil across the field, but you get to know Bob as a player and then as a GA, and then he ended up, working on our staff. You can just tell, there's a football gene to him. He grew up doing it, and is in a football family. And so I always kind of looked at Phil as that same way without knowing Phil, but I did for whatever reason. Certain guys you just kind of follow, you respect what they do. And when it came time to hiring a secondary coach here, first of all, Norm endorsed Phil strongly, and the other thing I knew about Phil, he wasn't a coaching vagabond. Been at Michigan State, went to Toledo, and now he's been here 22 years plus. So he's into coaching. He's not into being a celebrity or all that kind of stuff. And he was a no-star or 2-star or whatever, right? So was Bob. Like, neither one of those guys were big recruits, so they really learned how to play, and they relied on that and became really good players as a result. And he's just, I describe him as a pure coach. He's a coach's coach, and I think our players, any good football player appreciates a coach who's genuine, authentic, and is truly trying to make the player better, but cares about the player too. And I think Phil embodies all those traits.
I want to go back to '85 also, the Iowa-Michigan game. How do you remember Hayden that week?
Yeah, I really don't. He was pretty consistent most of the time. The one game he was geeked for was Texas. Obviously, it was, we all knew, coaches and players all knew that was a big one for him. But he handled it well. He just, kept everything steady and tried to keep everybody where they should be. And it was a heck of a game, obviously a heck of a game. And, but it wasn't the end of the story. And it's like this one. This is the 6th game. It's awfully important, I think, to both teams. But, life's going to go on afterwards, and we all got to realize that. But we got a window just like last week. We had a shorter window. You want to maximize everything you can. But there's no question anybody who was in the stadium that night or day, a late day, like this one, it feels different when you're in a game like that.
How special is it for you when these games don't happen very often, and we're talking about a game from 36 years ago?
Yeah, well, I tried to explain that. And Penn State plays in a lot more of these than we do, probably, right? I haven't done the research, but it's just, it's what you want to play for. It's fun. It's fun when the chips are on the table, and that's good. And but it's still about trying to beat your opponent. That's what it gets down to, and it's a match. We all got the same amount of time, so who can do the best job of getting ready?
You talked about being incredibly impred with Jahan Dotson. What sort of stands out about him on film?
Everything. He's a really good athlete, which is great. I'm not going to say a lot of people are, but there's a lot of really good athletes out there. But he's a football player, just the way he does everything. Let me just start back up by saying, okay, I'm not an expert in the passing game or receiver play. Believe me, I did coach helped out the receivers when I was a student coach at UConn. Put that on my resume, really important. So, a lot of help as freshman. But anyway, but But I mean, you just watch him play. Everything, there's no wasted movement. He's concise. Everything's really just, just sharp. I got to think the pro guys watching him really like him because he's a really decisive player. So he's a talented player, but he also is he's a good football player. Like, he plays hard. So, and that's the thing about them. They've got a lot of guys that are just really good players. And I go back to the 2002 game, it looked like we were in good shape, and next thing you know, boom, it's overtime. So that's what you got to realize. You're playing a team that can just, close the gap really fast because they got some guys.
Going back to Phil.
He's one of those guys. I mean, he's a guy, really good guy.
Going back to Phil and kind of the way the defense has been structured, how much input or decision making did you have in deciding to go with kind of the quarter scheme and a lot of times too high just to avoid the big play rather than be really aggressive man defense or something like that?
So I actually said this in an interview on Saturday, and I go back, when you talk about our defense, it starts with Norm. I was talking about Coach Fry, excuse me, one of the best people I've ever worked with in my life, best human beings and coaches, was Bill Brazier, and is Bill Brazier. And to this day, Bill and Norm, totally different backgrounds, right? And Bill was all Texas, and Norm is, Detroit, Hazel Park, and to be specific. But totally different personalities, yet very similar. Just really good people and really good coaches. And so long story short, when we were trying to decide, we interviewed 3 really good candidates. So to me, it's all about, the only thing I was opinionated on is, if we're going to play defense, the other team's got to block us, okay? We better not give up big plays, and then we better know how to tackle, because you can't play defense if you don't do those three things, in my opinion. And that was it. So whether it's a 3-4 scheme, 4-3, man, all that stuff, all I got to, some thoughts about coverages, but not, you just don't want to give up big plays a lot, because it's not good. So that's really what it was, and then it was more about the person. And we struck gold with Norm, and then just seemed like the natural progression. And Phil's taking it and run with it. But it's also, he'd be the first to tell you, it's a staff effort. We got a really good staff. Everybody's got input. Everybody's input counts. It's important. And it's just how we try to run this whole program, where everybody's got ownership and they got investment, because they're the guy. They're the experts. KB is the expert, the D line, him and Jay and Seth with the linebackers and all that. So, I mean, see what they say. They're the guys coaching those guys. They know their players better than anybody.
Amazing how Penn State matchups in your tenure here have just been so significant. You're like 2000, 2004, 2002, 2008, 2009. In good ways. There's been some bad ones. What stands out to you, and why is it always such a pivotal moment?
I can't answer it. Just that's the way it is. It's the way it's been. And we had the '83 game is one of my favorite games of my career. As a coach, right? I don't have any as a player, so I mean, but that was a great game. Just an unbelievable football game. So we, and that was, whatever it was, 38 or 48. It was a track meet, and then that 6-4 win is. So but that you're playing an established program. If you talk about programs that you really don't need much explanation, Penn State's in that handful of national teams so it's a challenge when you play them. And the one thing for sure, just like I alluded to, if you going back a long ways, if you're not ready to play, it could be embarrassing. So you better get ready to play.
Kirk, your offense utilizes the tight end much the same way Hayden did. Can I assume that's not a coincidence, since you spent 9 years with Hayden?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's definitely fair.
When you got here, the tight end was standing up. How big is how?
There's a reason we're not doing that now. With all due respect, and there's a reason why they did that. Why Coach Fry did that, and then it just continued. But it goes back to North Texas. The simple, smart answer I always give is, in the 80s, every time we lost, I'd go home and Mary'd say, you guys didn't throw the ball to the tight end enough, and she was right usually. There's just something about, tight end play, I think that's it's kind of like philosophy about defense. And then all I know is, again, I'm not very smart, but the smart defensive coaches I've been around, including in the NFL, if the other team had a good tight end, it really just seemed to really bother them and throw them out of kilter and out of whack. So there's just something about that. If you have that in your arsenal, if you got a couple of them, that's even better. But there's some real value. I just think it puts a little different pressure on a defensive team than not having one. But that's our personal belief. That's all.
Kirk, I think you've said every week, if not twice a week, on Tuesday and after the game, that you're still not quite sure how good this team is that you've got here. Is this week the week where you feel like you might have a better sense of that, or are you just going to continue every week a little bit more information?
No, you know, and every year is the same in one regard. And then this year, you know, I went on record a lot of times since August, probably before that. We do have a young team. I go back to that show of hands back first day of spring ball. So, you know, the good news there is that, you know, there's more opportunity for growth. And I think, you know, we've taken some steps certainly over 5 weeks, some forward, some backwards too. But that's part of the process. And, you know, you never know about your entire team, really. I mean, I think about 02, you know, maybe as good a season we had. It really went until late October when we really kind of hit stride. And so that's part of it, you know, and every team's like that, not just us. It's just you're always learning about your team. And, you know, this thing could go a couple different ways Saturday. So whatever way it goes, we'll learn about our team, too, afterwards, whether it goes good, bad, or indifferent. You know, how do you handle that the next week, and then how do you keep moving forward? And that's why you play 12 games and then whatever's afterwards. And I'm not making fun of it, but I'm always entertained just by all the chatter, you know, starting in January with the, you know, the too early for top 25 polls that come out, that, you know, the 2 hours after the last bowl game or even, you know, during bowl season. And I get that, and that's why fans go to games. I love that. I mean, believe me, I appreciate that. But as a coach, you can't get too caught up in that stuff because you just never know. And it just give you a quick, simple aside. Like, so many things could change in the next 5 days, right? Just, you know, on the surface. So you just never know.
Penn State's found some help in the transfer portal you have in the past. Do you see that happening? Are you going to see that happen more and more, do you think, especially when teams have success with that?
I really think it's a lot like the NIL stuff. I think it's going to be interesting to watch the next couple of years, and the free transfers that we have now, right? That's basically what's opened up the everybody gets a hall pass, and some people were getting them anyway before. But now everybody's got one. At least they get one part, you know, mulligan card in their pocket. So yeah, you know, and we've played against, you know, a lot of transfers over the last 4 or 5 weeks, and we'll see more this year. And for whatever reason, it didn't really work out for us that way this year. But Jack Heflin helped us. Like I said, we shop at a little different store than maybe some other people. But, you know, look at Heflin; he's on the Packers squad, right? He was a couple of weeks ago. I hope he still is. Yeah, what a great story. All right, so we got the right guy. But anyway, that's kind of, yeah. It's going to happen. I'm afraid. Yeah.
One of those guys, Van Valkenburg. Well, what's his story? I mean, you don't pull guys out of D3 school or D2 or whatever.
D2, I think. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I only know that because we, you know, got involved in it. I can't remember how his tape got here or how the whole thing came up, but this is year 3, right? So, you know, we were, like always, we never have enough depth, and just, you know, intrigued. And when we watch a film, it's kind of funny. It's like Marshall's film. This is how smart of an evaluator I am, right? I looked at Marshall's film and said, okay, you know, Reese, at least, you know, we could redshirt this guy, because I'm going back to when I was here in the 80s. All of our JC guys sat for 2 years, and they played as fifth-year guys. Ron Hallstrom, Brett Miller. Next thing you know, they're in the NFL. So I said, you know, we can at least redshirt him, and then, you know, he seemed like a tough guy on film. I didn't know how good a player he was. And so, you know, expert evaluation, right? After about 3 days in practice that spring, I was like, this guy he is our best lineman right now. But it took that long to figure it out. And the one thing about Zach just played hard. You know, you don't know level of competition, all that kind of stuff, but he played hard every film you watched. And that's really the guy he is now. I've referenced this in 19. Basically, his role is to give A.J. Epinesa, you know, 10 plays off, 12 plays off a game. He was just a guy out there kind of running in place, and, you know, the other guy put his hand up and he couldn't go anywhere. Last year he played really well, and he's playing really well right now. And besides that, he's a leader for us in a very young group of guys. So, you know, the value of that too, what they bring besides their playing, and Marshall is the same way. You know, good football player, yeah, but I mean, there's a reason the Ravens basically made him their franchise player. I mean, they weren't going to let him leave that building because they understood what he did to the locker room, and there's so much value in that besides running 40-yard dashes or, all that other stuff.
The turnover to points ratio this year has been a really big part of the team's success. How would you assess the offense's ability to operate efficiently, especially when given a short field most of the time?
Yeah, and that was a highlight the other night. We're getting the turnover and there was points. So that's a good football teams learn how to do. And, getting those stops is great and getting the ball back. But, if you don't show something for it, and that's why I referenced that one sequence. That pretty much, took the heart out of their football team. That bang, bang, that's a demoralizing, you're getting 2 scores for, before they even snap the ball. And that's a really good deal. So, kind of the same discussion as getting in the red zone. You want to come out with touchdowns if you can. Any points are better than no points, but you want to get touchdowns. So, those are all good things. And, opportunistic teams learn how to do that.
How helpful has it been to have the depth in the secondary where 6 interceptions from 6 different players?
Yeah, I joke about it. It's not like we got a drill for this stuff. So if we did, we should do it more. But it's just, I think that's experience. I think there are experience. But it's also, it's a team effort, and all the guys would tell you, the guys in the back end would tell you. And that's where stats, I know, stats come up a lot, but I made a point in letting our guys know. By record, we didn't have a sack the other night, but we were letting the quarterback be uncomfortable, and there's value in that too. So if you can hurry throws or get the guy moving where he's not comfortable and then, have to throw the ball there, that stuff doesn't show up in a stat column, but that's a beauty of a guy like Van Valkenburg or some of those guys when they're working hard up front.
If I recall correctly, it was a tough decision to redshirt T.J. Hawkinson in 16, where it was just hold him back. I mean, probably could have used him later in the year, but that was before the 4-game mulligan rule or whatever. How much has that changed you? Because he left after 3 years. Fant left after 3 years. Same thing with Epineza. And are you now more willing to push those true freshmen into the lineup because they're not going to be here for 5 years?
Yep, I've definitely jumped into that school of thought. Like, I just assume players that are playing are going to leave after 3. And, Matt Hankins is a great example of a guy who didn't, right? He chose to come back this year. And had he left, that wouldn't have been totally surprising to me. But I think it also shows some wisdom on his part and some maturity, because it was the best thing for him if he does want to continue to play. And, common sense would tell you that. There's a risk reward in everything you do, but common sense would say that's the best way to go. There aren't many, Tom Brady, but there aren't many, 38-year-old players in the NFL. So if you can make yourself more NFL ready, there's a lot of upside to that. But also the world we live in right now, kind of like the transfers and all that, that's just not the way people think anymore. So, you got to change your thinking with what's going on. And then if you do benefit from a guy staying in another year like Matt did, then great. That's awesome. And but he's staying because he wanted to stay, not because, we talked him into it or something like that.
As far as Sam Laporta goes, you threw him out there kind of by necessity, but it didn't seem like he was ready, but he played hard. And how has his growth been? And do you think that true freshman year helped him?
It does. There's 2 sides to every coin. That, if I was a commissioner of sports, which I will never be, or a commissioner of football, like no freshman would ever play, period. It's the best thing for him. Let him go to school. Let him get de-recruited, all the nonsense that everybody talks about. And now, Uncle Jim's not calling, hey, how come you're not playing 48 snaps instead of only 21? All those things that's unfair to the kid, the player, that happened in this real world. The best thing for them all would be just to sit. Okay, this is going to kill our recruiting for the next 15 years, right? But fortunately, I have no say on that, so I'll flip it over. So I, can't beat them, join them. I mean, that's the world that I think is perfect, but it's not going to happen. Nobody cares what I think. So the reality is, and when we look at guys right now, hey, just play them. If they can play and play, you can do some mental damage to the guys by playing them before they're ready. That's not fair, and that's not good. It's not healthy. But you want guys to play and let them go if that's the best thing for them. In Sam's case, it was.
The top 5 showdowns don't happen very often. Do you preach to you guys about opportunity and also just enjoying it, this what they're going to experience?
Oh yeah, I mean that's like the game we're referencing from 50 years ago. I'll remember that as long as I live, just because of the environment that day, and that's yeah, not everybody gets that chance. We didn't play any of those games at UConn or Maine, I can tell you that. So, it's a pretty cool thing. Yet football's still important. I mean, what the essence of football is. But yeah, these are neat experiences, and we just happen to be the guest at the party this year. We get to play Penn State, and that's good.
On that same note, some of the guys were saying already on Saturday they were getting texts from their family. It's going to be 3 versus 4. It's going to be a huge game. Kind of hyped up, and they were saying, they're telling me my family saying, I got a job to do, or just Spencer was saying he would just go and maybe like text messages, not even respond to people. What advice have you given these guys on everything that comes with this? And it's not even the first time we've been dealing with this season, but
yeah, I mean, I think how I feel about rankings in October and September. We just happen to be 5-0 right now, and so do they. So that's the way it is. But those things will be a lot more valid 4, 5, 6 weeks from now, and I hope we are in that discussion. But we got to earn that, and that's really what the key thing is. That it's not a 5-week season or 6-week season. You don't get any prizes. Nobody's going to announce a bowl matchup next week. I know they do the prognostications weekly. I get that, but they really don't count. Those are paper money, monopoly money, and nothing really counts till you get to the finish line. So enjoy the. These are 2 good teams. I mean, there's no debating that. We're both good teams, and so enjoy that part. But we got a lot of football ahead of us right now, and this is a really important game because it's, first of all, it's the next one up, and that makes it the most important game. But it's all you can do is you give it our best, and what we got to do is make sure we don't leave the door open this week because we're answering those texts or we're trying to get Johnny Smith's tickets and all that stuff, and just. We got to stay in our routine and practice and prepare and do the work you got to do.
There's a lot going on this season, and obviously the focus is on one thing, but is there something personally for you that you're really proud of this team so far to this point?
Oh, yeah. I can't remember many teams I haven't been proud of, and but, I have the luxury. One good thing about being a coach, you watch the guys, since we got together January 25th, just watch them every phase, watch how they do things, how they grow together. I think I went on record saying, in April, it's hard to come out of spring ball or May 1st last year. It's not like, you really don't have an identity yet. You've done some things, but you haven't done a lot. And now we've done a lot more things now since that time, and we've been in some tough situations together. But, the one thing, whether you want to talk about the 80s and I've missed 9 years here, my 23-plus years, we've had quality guys here, and that's the part that's I've never coached at a service academy. You talk to people who coach at service academies, they just talk about the caliber of individuals you work with. And I've always felt that way about this place, and I don't know a lot. I mean, 4 years at UConn, 5 years at UConn, 1 year at Pitt, and 2 years at Worcester Academy, that's it, and 6 years in the NFL. So, but I've been here, and we have really good, we talk about Bob Stoops in the 80s, Marshall, 15 years ago. We've been really lucky that way, and this group fits in that bill.
When you talk to Sam, he recognizes the legacy of his position group here and the successful players that came before him, and wants to make sure to do everything he can to extend that legacy. In what ways, maybe, has he, and I'm not measuring him against any of the other guys, but just is he getting to the point where he is leaving New Jersey in the better place type of thing?
Yeah, he's done a really, from the day he walked in here, he's really been fun to coach. I mean, you visit with him, you can just feel it, right? I mean, he likes life, he likes people, and he's the same way as a football player. So when he's on the practice field, in the weight room, or just around the building, he's an upbeat, really enjoys his teammates, enjoys the game, likes the competition. May have referenced, somewhere during a break, we called down there and they were having a family volleyball tournament. That's the kind of family they are. So, but that's a neat thing about football too. Everybody's got different personalities, and they're not all the same yet. What they do as players, kind of defines them as football players. And he's done a really good job, obviously, and is a really good football player. So, yeah, we're thrilled he's on the team, and we've had a long line of guys that were really good players here.
And Luke Lachey came, and he's gained about 40 pounds since he got here. He looked like kind of a, basketball forward, and now he's, bulking up. First of all, how has his development grown? And then the block that he made on that reception for Laporte kind of just jolted a few of his teammates in a positive way.
I'm just laughing a little bit because he's kind of a young guy, but he's grown immensely this past, since he's been here. He's done a lot of good things, and On one hand, sometimes you think he's like 15 years old when you talk to him. I'm going back a year, and really, kind of young as a player. But one thing he's done consistently since he's been here, he makes tough catches in practice all the time. Like, he'll make a catch and get nailed by a DB and just gets up, no drama, no anything, just gets up and like it's part of his job, and it is. But it's part of his job. Not everybody understands that. So, that part's, even when he was, a lot less weight and a lot, a year and a half younger, that stood out. So it's like Hawkeyes and, making some plays on the Scott team. Like, you just, when you see those things, or Castro the same way. I told, we've been watching Castro on our Scott team, not this year, but the last 2 years, just, blow guys up and stuff. And it's like, when are we going to see that somewhere else? And, so that's the fun of it, when you see those little glimpses and then you see guys have success on a game field.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.